Yes, welcome to Dream Big Podcast, Kasim Lamar YouTube podcast. And we have a special guest here, go by the name of Mr. Derell Wilson. He's I'm gonna let him explain for what he is, because he can explain more better than I can. So here you go. Derell, let the audience know who you are and everything.
Excellent. So glad to be on. My name's Derell Wilson. I am an alderman in the City of Norwich. I am one of the members of the Norwich City Council. I serve as the Democratic chair, City of Norwich, for our Norwich Democratic Town Committee. I'm on other boards and commissions. I'm a board of director at the Norwich Free Academy's Alumni Board of Directors, where I serve as vice president. I serve as the second vice president for our ECFO football officials board. I do a lot in the community. It's just glad to be on here.
Absolutely. And I want to go about letting my audience know that, Derell is a really good man, young man at that. I don't think you're even 30 years old yet, are you?
Not 30 yet.
Not even 30. Yeah, and this man been doing a whole lot for the community ever since I've been around. To be honest with you, I lived in, I did a lot of football, coaching in the area, but Derell's a person that actually got me into wanting to do things for the community. Also gave me a nice little job and everything, things of that nature, always looked out. You actually gave me the mindset to want to become an official as well. You know what I'm saying? But the brother, being as though he's a Democrat, I'm calling myself a Republican. I think I'm more of an independent because, I vote both ways. It depends on what the candidate is offering,
Mm-hmm.
But, just like I said, like this young brother is doing a lot of things for the community. I seen it. I seen it with my own eyes. So this is why this is a very special, podcast, because I know this brother. And again, he's an upstanding citizen and just a human being. I just want to say that before we go on.
I appreciate it.
No doubt. Okay, so all right, so we did the first question. Right now, what made you become a politician?
So I'll say, and somebody asked me this actually earlier this week, and I'll say I've been a community activist since the age of 9. So before I got into politics, I served as the Robert C. Duncan Youth Council, which is the Norwich NAACP's youth council. I served as the president of that for 10 years. And it really got me to really see the intricate pieces of civil rights advocacy, advocating for your community, having a voice. While in that role, I took on being a vice president at the state level of the NAACP, which gave me a broader aspect of what's happening around the state of Connecticut. It gave me a broader look at politicians themselves, lobbyists, all the aspects that go into what changes and builds our communities. I got a chance to, go into different states, go to national conventions in different areas, and really got to see what this country was really about. And one of the things that was always told to me by some of the late greats that mentored me, Miss Sheila Hayes, Miss Jackie Owens, but, there was one person in particular as well that got me to really understand the impact of coming back and being involved. And that was Ms. Eunice Waller. So I met her first. The first time I met her was during my MLK scholarship interview. And looking at the whole picture of my resume, my grades and whatnot, one of the things that she, honed in on me was, you do great in school, but you come back and you build your community. And it kind of stuck with me. When I went to school, I came back, we had a lot of school closings in Norwich. We had individuals that were in it for the wrong reasons for some time. And, kind of what motivated me was, my twin brother served on the city council first. So he became the youngest person to serve the Norwich City Council just at the fresh. To see a young African-American man where we haven't had a lot of people of color serve, but to see him as a young man overtake some of the people as an underdog, really, really set the work on that. And, he served 2 years, and after he decided not to serve again, I had come back to the community. I'd started coaching. I had started volunteering. I had started refereeing.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to take that next step in being in the community. And, I looked at the demographic and the makeup of our council. And when you have a council that doesn't reflect the population or the community, and there are voices that aren't being heard, that's when you step up.
Right.
So after talking to some individuals, putting some thought into it, doing my research, in 2017, that March, about a year after my brother had passed from a car accident, I announced that I was going to run for mayor. Mayor is the top seat here in the city of Norwich. It's a 4-year term. And for me, it was because I had a vision for economic growth, stability in this community, giving the next generation a voice at the table to build this community. I wanted young families to move here. I wanted young people to know that they had someone that was willing to go to bat and advertise this community to any and everybody.
Right.
I worked hard that year. I ended up gaining the Democratic endorsement. That was a hard-fought battle going through it, but that process taught me what politics was. And even though I didn't win the first time, and I tell people, I didn't win my first go-around.
Right. Yeah.
So after the first time or once they lose. And I got involved. I stayed involved. I became the chairman of the Democratic Town Committee the following year. I got to really see the intricate work of where I could fix things running a campaign. I got to network, which was huge, with different individuals because it was a state election. And I put my hat back in the ring the next year. So in 2019, I put my shoes back on and I got out there door knocking, making phone calls, and getting involved in the community because I wanted to represent this community. And we had certain values and things on the Democratic ticket that year that really sung true to this community. And I was blessed by the grace of God to get elected to serve on our city council in November of 2019.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I want to let the audience understand that when I get my getting to understand what politics mean to people and things of that nature, I go to you and I go to other people, but mainly,
absolutely,
mainly in this town, this county, I go to you because you know what's the what's the economic situations are about, educational situations are about, who's who, things of that nature. I've been voting since maybe I think 2000. I voted. That was I think it was my sophomore year in college, and but I didn't know what I was voting for. All I know, I was voting for Democrat. And a lot of young men and women, it don't actually matter what ethnicity you come from. We really don't know who we actually voting for. I think nowadays it's different because you can get a lot of research. You know what I'm saying? You still there? I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I'm still there. And,
okay.
And what I will say with even with that piece, the one thing I will say over the years has been the research has been there. I think the biggest problem I think, and this is with most people is, it's about the trend center. So one of the things that I've been blessed in, and it's kind of what I've been, ring true, is being involved at the local level and being a Democratic Town Committee chair. I understand the vetting process. And I think one of the pieces of politics that most people don't realize is if you don't start at the local level, if you're not involved with the intricate work of the groundwork of politics, you miss out on the relationship building needed to having a say-so in who the candidate is. I one of the things I tell people is I've been a delegate now to two state conventions for the Democratic Party. And
Right.
there are, just like with any organization, you know, I'll put it in the terms of even football. You know, a head coach sits down with his staff and he has this top vision of where he wants to see things go. But it branches out then into other areas. And I
Right.
think one of the problems is and this is, and I will say this, the fault of many of, even in our generation, is you have to be at the table. You have to come with solutions. You got to come with ideas. But the biggest part about politics, and I think Joe Biden said this, is about building relationships. It's about understanding the relationship that you have to build in order to come to some level of an agreement.
Right.
But I think on the backside of that is you've got to come with options on the table for individuals to debate, individuals to vet, and really get rid of in order to come up with a platform. You know,
Right.
I think the Democratic Party has been, you know, yes, you know, people say, you know, predominantly people of color vote for the Democratic Party.
Right.
You know,
I
and
definitely
I
say that.
and I will say, you know, to a certain extent, you know, you look at the party values of what's put first. You know, so beyond just the low hanging fruits about economics, education, healthcare, and all of those things, it's the morality that's put first. And I think, you know, I still remember. I tell people I still remember 2016 when Donald Trump won the election, the night of the election, that when he was beating Hillary Clinton pretty much.
Right.
And I remember I worked the polls that year, you know, and it was a different sense of a Republican that year than it was had ever been, you know. And I tell people, we all have friends that are independents, Republicans, libertarians, Green Party, everything.
Right.
But it was a different sense, you know. I tell people, I remember working the polls, and an individual thought it was okay to come in there with it, you know, with their firearm, you know, and it was just that different level of where we were shifting as a country. And, you know, I think when you look back to it, it really comes down to, you know, the morality piece, I think, for some, and when it comes to this. And then this has been like this since about 2007, 2008, where it's been that shift. It's been more about race. It's been more about morals instead of just the principles of a party. And I think, you know, like when you look at, you know, Democrat, Republican, that I think is the part that's is the a bigger focal point this time around than just the principles.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. And my situation where I come on my side of the way I saw things is that when I see Donald Trump, I honestly don't see a Republican. You know what I'm saying? That conservative, very conservative Republican that really just want to talk to just Republicans. That's it. I don't want to talk. If you have any ounce of liberalism in you, I don't want to talk to you. When I saw it and then I saw it at the end of the 2016, because I felt like what I'm hearing, everything, people, you know, how the media, I feel like the media is whatever people do, like the guy bringing in the rifle, what have you, they learn it from the media, no matter how it be social media or mainstream media. And I always say we dealing with people that's mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
I know people that's making $100,000 a year to $300,000 a year, and these people are still if you really get to conversate with them on how they really believe in different things, you would say something's wrong with this person. So it doesn't matter if you're highly educated or someone that's in the middle of the pile or just low.
Mm-hmm.
It's just your mindset. And that's what the mainstream media, I think that's who they bully mentally, those type of people. And in America, it seems to be a lot of that, you know.
Well, and I will say, you know, like when it comes to the media this time around, well, at least the first time, you know, I think, and I say this to people all the time, is we took Donald Trump as a joke in 2016.
That too. Yep.
We took him as a joke. You know, you had Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, all these other individuals that were candidates, and no one was going to be the nominee. And I think it was the fact that, he brought this level of him not being a politician, him being a businessman, him being him. So he was kind of outside of that circle with everything that had been going on. He brought just the kind of like that different, fresh face, but also the fact that he was allowed to, because of his celebrity status and pretty much what he had made himself on, he was allowed to degrade people, people from his own party, people from other parties, any race. And I tell people this,
I think it was because people was getting tired of the conservative, even the Republicans that I talk to now for the last, year or two, they said they was getting tired of those guys. So when
I think Trump even beyond that, you think about, for me, the big piece was there was a paradigm shift once he became the candidate, where not even about the issues, where at that point it had turned into a thing about race and gender. And like I look at our area, for example, and the fact that out campaigning, you seeing people, it was a level of where you saw men treat women a way that I hadn't seen them treat women in this community ever. And still to this day, women leaders, they were treated differently. And it was partly, because you think about it, that last election was a man versus a female. And, it's sad to say, you had white men telling you they were not ready for a woman to be the leader. And it had nothing to do with that. And if we take all the politics, everything out of it, before that was the showdown, it was the simple fact because
cutting out just a little bit. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. You cut out just a little bit. Yeah. Now, what you were saying?
You had all those little things that made that, and then because you think about it, it really had nothing to do with politics the last time. There was no real platform talk or anything.
Yep.
And I think he won that election because we did not do our part to campaign hard enough for that presidency. And we took him for a joke.
Yeah, and what you say, that's absolutely right. I think that was a big part of it too, when it came to, a woman's not ready to be the commander in chief. It definitely did, because just like everybody, I know people that I was around, including yourself, at that particular time, it was a bunch of people saying that what they were saying, that, well, at least the white women, the white married women will be voting for her. So we got that. So the white women, they didn't do it, let alone anyone else was doing it. Just as well as men. I don't know if they were just following their husbands, because they said a bit, you'll know more than I would do. When
suburban white women voted for him.
Say it again?
Suburban white women voted for him more than people expected.
Because even those women thought she wasn't ready, or maybe they were just listening to their husband.
Well, the other part is, the other part that, what was, you had the phenomenon of the whole Benghazi email situation that was still lingering, and that was a hard thing for a hurdle to over. Right. In the middle of running a campaign, Absolutely. So I think you had that huge situation that really tainted the situation when it came to her, and then the part of the inner workings of the Democratic Party itself, with the Bernie Sanders situation and how that was handled, So and I think I got really involved with the party after that election, and I think part of it was the understanding that this is a new shift where you got to incorporate everyone. And I tell people, this time around, it was a clear-cut decision as to who won. If you can't campaign or you can't win states during a primary, you're not you're not a viable candidate.
Right.
You know, and I think, you know, like when we look at even this election, you know, they won the first few contests, but when we got to bigger states like South Carolina and Texas and places like that, and they weren't able to keep the momentum, and the momentum was stagnant.
Yeah.
You know, you see the viability of a candidate.
Right.
You know, and I think that's the huge difference this time is we're talking more. The media's talking more about policy.
Yes.
The media's talking more about morality. You know, which is huge in an election like this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I see, even including myself, I see people that was very ignorant to what politics that they specifically want 4 or 5 years ago. Now, so again, as I say, it's so much different. You know, how would I say? It's so many different resources that you can see exactly what you want. You know what I'm saying? It's like you have no excuse. And I see everybody is going to the polls and this and that and third. Before we go to the questions again, my thing is, I hate the fact that a person such as you, like, if you tell me exactly why you're a Democrat, why you're voting for your specific reasons, then I agree with you, but I disagree with you because I'm voting for this and this and that and third. But it's people out there, a lot of people out there, and you know where we live at and how people think. Because a brother have a different mindset, just even a woman have a different mindset. It's like you're going to hell. It's like, and I feel as though most of those people that I'm talking about is those people that really still is ignorant to actually what they want and not what, you know, for what the media tells them what they want. Instead of what is that, because you would ask them a question and they would say, well, I'm not voting for him because he's an asshole. I get it. I get that. But what's the specifics in your household that you need? What is your needs?
Absolutely.
You don't get it. All you get is all type of names are being called and this and that third, and you have to protect yourself from that. And that's the problem. People need to understand that everyone ain't gonna think like you, no matter what the media tells you, no matter how many friends that you know think like you. Everybody's not going to think like that. You have to be.
Well, and I think that's the good part about politics.
Exactly. Yep. And I feel as though the same way it is, and it's mind blowing. But this question I want to ask: as the upcoming elections come up, how important to you is this for American people? We kind of did, talked about that, but you could,
So I think for me, this election,
you cut out a little bit. Say that again. Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
So I will say, this election is important to me. I look at 2016. Hold on one second. Yeah, I look at 2016, for example, and what transpired here in Connecticut, where Trump had gains in Connecticut. We went into a budget cycle deadlocked almost in the General Assembly. And that had big ramifications budget-wise for us as a state.
Right.
Where we were in a sequester because this election determined so much, But I think for me, this election, I look back, and I continue to tell people this, is I look back at when Biden and Barack Obama were president and vice president in this country, and the opportunities they afforded people in my generation going to college. So I look at, I had scholarship opportunities because of grades and different things. I had opportunities that many of my other classmates wouldn't have had. But I also know that during looking at where we were, which, no one can dispute, Obama was handed a horrible situation as far as the recession we were in.
Absolutely.
And, if I needed a school loan then, I wouldn't have been able to, if I wouldn't have been able to get one with how bad the market was.
Right. Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
and the fact that they made programs that were provided kids the opportunity to go to school at a lesser rate. You know, and I think a lot of people sometimes like, well, you know, the government, you're leaving with a lot of debt. Part of the problem is when you don't have the full Congress and you don't oversee private colleges and you have state colleges, they run their operation.
Yep.
Government charge a student, you know? So part of it is having that conversation, which, you know, Democrats have been talking about and they finally started to do over the last 2 or 3 years, which was the community college route. You start to make community college a competitive rate for more kids to buy into it, then it forces those 4-year institutions to re-examine how they do things.
I think that's,
you know,
yeah, I think that's very important because we're going through the situation with my daughter. My could go to a Division I or Division II when it comes to grades and what have you, but
yeah,
her mother and I feel as though that the community college will teach her the same thing, but at the same time, you're just paying more. Maybe they got extra curriculums, but you're honestly just paying a whole lot more, in my opinion,
correct.
from what I saw. Yeah.
So like that was a huge thing, you know. So I was going to go to play football, and I decided to go academically.
Yeah.
But so I look at, they provided an opportunity, and Biden was really the one around it who provided that opportunity for a more affordable college. Him and Obama, and they pressed and passed it through Congress. And him as vice president was instrumental because as the vice president, you are the speaker for negotiations for the Senate.
Right.
And to be able to broker a deal with the Senate, who really despised the president, was huge. But then the other reason I tell people, there's this election is bigger for one other reason, with us being in this COVID-19 situation. And I don't care what anybody says, me being on the forefront in a lot of meetings and different things about COVID-19, it's real. And, I tell people, this isn't, this virus is far from being over.
Right.
I tell people, so for me, this is important because also I look at the Affordable Care Act, and I tell people, I was blessed when I was a senior in high school to be in Washington, D.C. the week that they debated and passed the Affordable Care Act, and meeting senators, meeting representatives, and hearing the real reason why this bill was so important. I look at it, I was blessed to come out of college and get a job where I could get decent health insurance. But I had plenty of friends who were getting part-time jobs and whatnot. And if it wasn't for the Affordable Care Act, they wouldn't be able to stay on their parents' insurance until they were 26.
Right. Yeah.
So I look at things like that.
About 20, 15 years ago, I think it was 23. I think when Obama came in office, it got 3 years, another 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, where you could be on the parents thing. I think it got
correct
26. Yeah,
you got 5 years, because normally when you turn 21, you were off.
I thought it was 23
so that was for certain provisions. So like for dental, certain other things, depending on the plan,
right,
it was either 21 or 23. But you have a lot of people that did not have, their parents couldn't pick them up, they couldn't afford it.
No, yeah,
and
yeah.
that was a huge blessing, because it was a sigh of relief for some of these kids that were getting out of college trying to find their footing. So between that, student loans, and then I tell people, the immigration is one of the biggest issues, I will say, with people. Mm-hmm. However, I look at it this way. There are people that come to this country that do jobs that no American would ever want to do.
Yeah, say that one more time. I didn't hear you. Say that one more time.
I said there are people that come to this country that do jobs that not one American would want to do.
Yeah, we hear. I see that phrase been around for years, but
You know,
But it's
and you
still,
look.
but at like big cities and stuff, things of that nature, when we got a lot of poor people, poor Americans, that I'm pretty
Absolutely.
sure that they would do those
Well,
jobs.
I,
For a long
I
time,
will say,
yeah, yeah, for a
I
long
will say,
time, yeah.
even in some of those big cities, you have people that will not, and part of it is, I think that just the pride piece. You know, I've seen certain people where, you know, I've told them, look, you get your foot in the door. You know, this job is not where you want to be, but it gets your foot in the door. It gets food in your mouth, and it helps you pay the basics to get started. And they will sit down and tell me absolutely not, because my pride won't let me. And
Because that's
we've got
how,
a lot.
yeah.
We've got a lot of
I
people.
think it's the climate of areas like I don't think Midwest people, and I don't think like a lot of Southern people would think that way. I think a lot of people where we're from on the East Coast will absolutely think that particular way. You know, like it's a lot of people from rural areas that don't think that way. That their families uh, believe in hard work. Till this day, I know since the 60s and the 70s, Americans was getting more softer. 80s, 90s was getting soft. But I really feel as though, because if you look at a lot of these people that's doing the work that we aren't doing, if you
Mhm.
look at their countries, you would think once you go do it, not you know, I'm not being, you know, disrespectful, but their countries is in a situation where they're doing so perfect with what they're doing here. Why can't they do it there? That's not a question for you. I'm just saying in general, why can't you do it there? But they get the opportunity to be in
Absolutely.
a free country, or a quote unquote free country, and they get the opportunity. Yes, absolutely. But I feel
Yeah.
as though if an Americans aren't doing it, like a lot of East Coast Americans, what have you, if we're not doing that, we have to do something else. We just can't shove them and let you know, immigrants get what we need. That was in the 19, and I was talking about this to a fellow on social media.
Mhm.
That's 1964 Civil Rights Act. That
Mhm.
kind of killed a lot of things of Black Americans, because because when you say trick words like colors, or people of color, or you know, just all these different things, that's going to trickle down to everyone else but Black Americans.
Mhm.
And this guy that I was talking to, he broke it down to me for about an hour, you know, and you know about that. You know, that 1964 Civil Rights Act, and then 1965, when they start to understand, okay, you fought for the civil rights, okay, well, we're gonna get in a lot, and a lot of people in the, you know, 70s and the 80s started to come in this country. It was people like my grandfather was here in the 50s, but and he was a dark-skinned Hispanic, but that was like an unheard of thing. He played what you call Negro leagues. So
Mhm.
it was a special occasion why he was here. You know, so I feel as
Yeah.
though that really hurt us when we started to, you know, sign these Civil Rights Act, not knowing that was pushing us more down a totem pole. How you, what you think of that?
Well, I will say, you know, having known, you know, I had to chat with Ben Hook. He was one of the presidents of the NAACP back in the day, way back in the day.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, you know, he makes clear is, you know, with the Civil Rights Act, part of it is, and it goes to us as a people, and we see it now, is when we fight. Sometimes once something's signed or we've gotten part of it, we fade from doing the hard work sometimes. And I think with the Civil Rights Act, it did a lot of good. However, the follow-up piece that went missing was, just as you're saying, where we desegregate and we do this, but the funding's not there. The resources aren't there. You know, so now we're separated, but now, you know, we talk about communities are still segregated. We talk about jobs still segregated, and the attitude of the country is still segregated. And you know, it's that civil war you're fighting within.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that, you know, the other part was, and this goes back to the, you know, the immigration pieces that then, you know, they knew they had us kind of on a leash without the Civil Rights Act because we needed them for money. We needed them for certain things. Whereas now they figured, I bring people in from other countries, I could pay them less. They're going to work. They're going to save that money. They're gonna, and I can save money because I can write these things off on tax.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Back to the Constitution, when blacks were considered 2/3 of a person, not a full person.
Right.
That's the part when we should have known. We were always thought less than of.
Right.
You know, so that then allowed them to feel that they could pay us less, that they could treat us less, you know. And even with the Civil Rights Act, it just made them say, okay, they want to be equal with us. Well, we'll bring in other people to do the work.
And that's when they was bringing in like actually African descent people way more in the late 60s, 70s. A lot of Africans and a lot of West Indian people of black descent was coming in.
You know, so you look at it, you know. And major corporations, major farms, major corporations today, you know, meat packing plants, everything, they've gotten hundreds of thousands of people they bring over from other countries that they know they can do it cheaper, they can pay less, they can get around the system to save themselves a lot in taxes, and that's what it's come down to. And you know, for me as a Democrat, one of the biggest reasons for one of the biggest principles for me is about the working family, right, you know, right. And I think, you know, for me, one of the things, you know, we've gotten back to talking about is the working family. You right. know, you look at the protections that unions have given people, you know, regardless of your race, you know, you've got someone that's going to fight your back for a good wage and X, Y, and Z, good benefits, fair labor practices, you know. And I think that for me, that's a huge piece. I can't I can't sit back and let people trickle away at the things that make us so hard for. You know, they want to change. You know, you work hard and you put money away. You're being taxed. You put money away, and when you retire, you've got something to look back on. I can't I can't sit back and let people continue to chip away at those things, you know. So for me, I got really into this because I want to know when I retire 30 or 40 years from now, I've got something to fall back on. There's a system in place for health-wise to take care of me. There's a system in place for my kids and my grandkids to be able to get fair wages, be treated fairly at work, and all of those things.
And that's my importance. I always talk about family. I always talk about how important, how I saw how your family are. Mm-hmm. I see that's how I want my family to be, and other people's family to be strong knit inside the home and things of that nature. And if you're a politician or anything and you're about family and it shows in the work that you've done in the past and the present, I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, independent, I don't care who you are, liberal, conservative, I'm going to vote for you because that's one of my triggers, family. You know what I'm saying? Like understanding, because situations with my two older kids' mother, no matter what, how we got into how we were, I made sure that she was comfortable with me being the father of her kids as well. You know what I'm saying? Being as though we might not agree with 98% of different things.
Absolutely.
But we have to agree with making sure we was co-parenting the correct way. You know what I'm saying? But let me get to this question right here for you. As a black American man such as yourself, what do Democrats have to offer us like specifically, like in, specific, like how can I say, in your,
And the tangible pieces.
yeah, in the tangible pieces, um, things of that nature. What do you think
So,
that they are?
so for me, when I look at the platform, first I will say, no matter what politician you are.
You cut out a little bit.
Official.
Hold on. Okay, say it again. I'm sorry.
So once you become an elected official, I think one of the things that people forget is that you then represent everyone.
Right. Right.
So you come with a universal approach on how you handle things. For me, some of the tangibles that I think Democrats bring to the table is, for me, it's about the living wage. You watch the debates and you hear people talk about, $10, $11 minimum wage is okay. And we both know you can't live on $10 and $15.
No,
I mean, you can't even live on $15.
Barely 15.
But at the same time, the more money you put in someone's pocket, and it's shown, the more that they bring back into the economy for it to generate more jobs and more opportunity. So for me, that working family, livable wage. The other part is about healthcare, and a way where, no matter what demographic you're from, and for Black people, this is huge, is to be able to have options to choose from, and not be railroaded by the big insurance industry, to be able to have where there are premiums that are affordable for you and your family is important. I tell people, I look at, you look at African Americans, we suffer from diabetes. We suffer from high blood pressure.
That's the number one killer for Black men.
We suffer from these things.
That's the number one killer.
Yep. So absolutely. So, for me as a Democrat, it's being able to know I don't have to put my whole check on healthcare. I can find a plan where they're going to be sensible, that all my needs and pre-existing conditions are going to be covered down the line.
Right.
So for me, that's a tangible thing. I don't care what race you are, but that's tangible because, I will say I've watched and I've heard and looked at families spend thousands of dollars each pay period just to make sure that they had medicines and that their premium didn't lapse.
Yeah.
So that fight over the last 10 years has been tremendously beneficial to our community. I think the other part, I look at for Democrats, and it's the part that hasn't really been talked about this time around, is if it wasn't for Joe Biden and Barack Obama, Blacks would still be getting, there would still be the predatory lending practice going on of mortgages, where we're paying 3 and 4 times the amount in interest on a mortgage than our white counterparts. And it was under them that banks like Wells Fargo and some of these other large banks were caught, and we were given money back, and it's made it so that it made them form programs to allow home ownership, because you hear people talk about one of the biggest things to us as a people being able to move up is what? Wealth.
Yeah. But when you still there, but the wealth part, but the homes affordable, making sure the banks wasn't, charging us 3 times or more. But when I did my research with this, it was mainly people of color thing. That's that trick bag that I saw.
Well, so I will say there was a lawsuit. So at that time, I actually was state conference president for the NAACP.
Yeah.
And I may still have some of the information, but when we broke it down, we had the opportunity, because the colored piece,
right,
to break it down to African Americans, break it down. And there were, in some of your densely populated areas, I'll give you one, the Maryland area, the Virginia area, the DMV area, around Atlanta, some of your densely populated areas where African Americans were moving to, Black families, were some of the main areas where, when you go and research foreclosures, had exponential numbers in foreclosures because of the amount that they were spending, and it was a trick to it, because now you look at some of these areas, what are they building there?
Build businesses and things of that nature. Is that what you're
building that? They're building affordable housing complexes.
Yeah.
So it's the gentrification piece that people didn't even realize was going on when they were being bamboozled into buying many of these homes.
That's
and
another
then on
thing.
the backside,
Yeah.
you look on the backside of it is now you've now lost your mortgage, and even if you've gotten out of the hole because you've gotten some of that money back, that's still a scar on your credit.
Yep.
So now instead of just the work back of the and the assets you've lost, we were now working back on getting our credit. So, I think for me, that's another big piece. But, I think the other big piece, and we've been talking about it, is this whole fight for equitable education. I think, it's good for people to have choice, but it's important to have the opportunity. So, I think it's important for community college to be free and affordable for individuals.
Right.
I think it's important for us to pressure four-year institutions to be more affordable. So I think for me, the tangible piece is that Democratic leaders in that sense are willing to force pressure on these institutions to give back, to lower themselves, because the profit margin is still going to be there regardless of what people think, because you're going to still have a large amount of people going to your institution.
Yeah.
But I look at it as, if you cut the price into a third of that price off for what you're charging kids to go to school, you're still going to make a profit.
Right.
So I think for me, the other part with Democrats, that's tangible, is that fighting piece of making people not over emphasize the wealth of our community. So the exploitation piece is huge for me. When it comes to that in college and whatnot.
Yeah,
and I will say even public education as well.
Right. And the gentrification thing, they get back on that part. Gentrification was like hectic. Like coming from a big city, and I did move back to Newark, New Jersey back in 2012 until 2015. The gentrification was getting crazy. Like what you call like the rent, living in Newark, New Jersey was skyrocketing. I saw it in 2010 or 11, I think it was 10, 11, when Brooklyn, I think they like number one most expensive place to live now. You know what I'm saying? And it was just these different entities that were coming in. And maybe the affordable housing going other places, but when Barack Obama and Biden was in office, this is when a lot of this stuff was going on. People had to move. People had to move fast. And a lot of those, but what I saw too, the low income housing was growing in the city. In like really suburban areas. Like I'm talking about, you gotta at least make $100,000 a year to live in these areas. So it was one of them things of what was going on. People was fighting. People didn't know what was happening. And I think it was, who's in charge of it's a tech. They've been talking about them in the news recently, big time. They're in charge of Facebook, Twitter, and all this. The tech companies from like San Francisco and things of that nature, they was moving in. Those people was moving in. How San Francisco is another city where a lot of poor people was growing. It was like growing. And I think a lot of Americans are starting to see these things. This is why maybe Biden might have a different morals than Trump. but a lot of moderate voters, independent voters, and things of that nature. What I hear from them when I talk to them, they be like, we're seeing all this. We're seeing a lot of Americans being shifted. People that lived in LA people are moving out. Like, if you ever been to LA? Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The poor out there is incredible. Like, homeless people, it's incredible
Yep.
what's going on. So this is what people are singing. And when they look at Biden, they just look at a straight politician. They don't look at a person such as yourself, that this man is really trying to do something. They don't, I'm just talking about the people that's in the middle, that's really haven't decided who they're going to vote for. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even voting for Trump or what have you. Them people in the middle, that's what they thinking. They saying,
well, and I think the hard part, people have to realize, and I tell people this is, at this point, Trump can't say he's not a politician. He's had to wheel and deal negotiations. He's had to, he's, and I think this is the part where, and I appreciate Biden being able to see his flaws and apologize for things he may have crafted or things he may have voted for in the past, and realizing the impact that they've had. Because I tell people, being a politician isn't easy, but and everyone's going to make a mistake in the things that they vote for.
I mean,
we all
yeah,
vote perfect,
yeah.
And I think that's what's huge for him, is realizing some of the mistakes he's made and where it's put us.
Yeah.
But I tell people this is the other big piece to this, which I think people fail to realize, is that Trump's other downfall is he has the advantage of having a Senate where he could wheel and deal certain things. And over 4 years, he hasn't done anything to do that. So he's left himself in this position where he would have a stronger argument about business. He would have a stronger argument about helping the communities, low-income communities and whatnot. But he's been stagnant. He's used them as a way of hostage or surrender. And I give the example of, like, right now, there's no doubt that another stimulus package for people is needed. With the amount of jobs that are just not coming back, or it's just not safe to bring them back.
Right.
People are struggling going into the holiday season. And to sit back and know you have the majority, you have the willpower to do it, and for them not to pass this stimulus package of $1.9 million was absurd. But we spend the time to spend 2.5, 3 weeks confirming a Supreme Court justice. So I think, those are the parts that, like, I think sometimes when you look at this election, those people in the middle, those are the things that they've really got to weigh out. Priorities of business, And then I think, you go back and you look, no politician is perfect. However, you look at who's willing to change their dynamic. I look at the Democratic platform this year, and it's more progressive this year than it's been in the past, because it incorporates things of younger generations that are going to be important come down the line. And regardless of being a conservative Republican, a moderate Republican, you're going to get on board with some of these things down the road regardless. Because our other countries will be doing them. Yeah. And we don't want to continue to be left behind. And I bring up, I think back to World War time, when we were in this big fight with the Soviet Union over the space race, and we were in competition with them about different science and whatnot. And we're back in that position where we took the emphasis off of innovation, advancement, and we put it on everything has to be American. And I tell people, like, if we want to continue to be the world leader, we need to show why we're the world leader. We're building the best and biggest and baddest scientists, teachers, doctors.
Right.
You know, and then it goes back to that point. Then we don't need to bring doctors in from all over the place, but we're building them and we're educating them, and those opportunities that we're bringing over the best from other countries. You know, but right now there's this fear that if you're not American born and you're not American this, you know, you shouldn't have those opportunities. And I tell people, like, we look at both of ourselves. You know, we're blessed to be over here. Were our ancestors originally from here? Absolutely not. You know. So I tell people, you know, we built the backs of this country. Our biggest thing is we don't dig deep into, and I tell people, you got to look at the candidate for what benefit does it have to your family? Like we've been talking. Absolutely. What benefit personally does it have to your family? Mm-hmm. You know, and you know, so even some of those people that, you know, I'm all about, you know, vote Democrat. You know, I will say, but I will say that what's made me be able to say that locally here is I look at the process we go through to vet candidates. Me knowing this process of how we got side, I know it wasn't just, it wasn't like the last time, he just automatically gets it because of glitches. I know the simple fact that he outvoted people, he out-fundraised, he outvoted people down the long run.
Right.
You know, and I look at even locally, like when I look at our state reps, our state senators, our U.S. congressmen, U.S. senators, they've gone through a vetting process to get where they are.
Right.
You know, and there was, I think it was, I want to say it was either on CNN or it was on 60 Minutes, one of the two, talking about the simple fact, or CBS it might have been, talking about the fact of like people of color, African Americans being very, we've only had 10 U.S. senators be black in this entire, and it's like, that's amazing to me. You know, we hold such a large demographic in this country, yet we hold such a small, minute piece of power and wealth. You know, and for me, that's been a huge piece, is teaching people the financial wealth piece and whatnot.
Yeah, I think
huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the fact of the matter is that we don't base ourselves as, we don't put priorities such as economics, such as education, such as family, mom, yep, and a father in the household like other non-blacks. And I've been saying that from day one. I don't want to hear about how, you know, from my standpoint, I really don't want to hear about every, you know, how is the government going to help me? No, I want to hear about how are we going to help each other? Them people at Tulsa, Oklahoma, with that rape from 1921, those people had less resources than we will ever have, and they still was millionaires back then. Why is that? Because they put economic, education, and family and God first. And we don't put this in place.
Well, and you make a valid point. You know, you look at it, and I talk with my students all the time about it, is sometimes we've got to take a step back and you look at our priorities of spending as well. You know, and instead of spending that $250, you know, instead of spending that $250 on Jordans, put $100 away into your retirement. Put $50 away into a savings so that down the road you can save up. You have, over time, you can buy up several properties and you can invest in several businesses. You know, because I think a lot of people forget, and this is where our biggest thing that we're not teaching our young people about is the fact that when you go to buy a home, you've got to have so much wealth. You got to have so much. They want to know that you're not going to buy a house and you're going to have the means to be able to replace the roof, like, to fix the plumbing, to do the electrical.
Credit. Like, I didn't know about credit until, like, how important it is until probably almost 30. Like, you know, being as though I've been around a lot of educated people. Don't get it wrong. I absolutely been around a lot of educated people in my family. But we talking about all the other spending. That's what we talk about. We don't talk about how it's going to, we don't talk about wealth. I'm at my,
you get those credit cards in the mail, and next thing you know, you got 3 of them, and you max one out, and you're not paying, you're not able to pay X, Y, and Z.
No.
So for me, that's that piece. Sometimes I look at certain people and they can't afford to pay some.
Yep. Say that one more time. You cut off. Hello? Say it again. I'm sorry. What you said?
All right. So I said, sometimes people get credit cards and they get them and they can't pay this bill, so then they put it on a credit card.
Yep.
And then they put something else on a credit card. And next thing you know, you've maxed it out and you've got to pay those things back, but you're already short in another area.
Yeah.
So I think it's been a blessing. Democrats have fought for lower health prices on insulin and things like that, more affordable health care. And I tell people, nothing is perfect. Everything can always be tweaked and made better.
Absolutely.
The problem that I have had is for 4 years we've been talking about a replacement plan, alternative, and we've gotten nothing. And the fear that over 20 million people would lose that is scary. You were blessed to be in Connecticut where we've set up systems in place statewide to be able to take on these things. Right, but there are states where people are going to be devastated. I look down in places like Mississippi, Alabama, parts of Georgia, the Midwest, where they're very rural. And you're not having insurance and whatnot in these COVID times, you're going to be, in trouble.
Yeah, I agree with that notation when it comes to that and the 4-year plan of what you said. And I look at Trump and I say, wait, we got to do something about that and things of that nature. Just like you said, you're not going to always be 100% on the candidate that you want to choose. You have certain situations like you looking at them like, yeah, I like you for the most part, but this is very important. Healthcare is absolutely important.
And then I also, one of the other big things, that I tell people about when I look at Donald Trump versus Biden is, Donald Trump was blessed with what the situation he came in, because most people don't realize that true economics or seeing the true benefit of economics takes between 2 and 3 years sometimes to show.
Right.
To really see the growth and whatnot. So for you to have low unemployment rates and things like that, that was the benefit of a former president that had systems in place that it takes 2 years for you to see it. You didn't get rid of everything. You just changed the tax code. So those big businesses now just get a bigger tax break.
Right.
Or they get, so I think, people understanding there's no true business mechanism behind it. And I will say over in the last 2 or 3 weeks, some of that has been unmasked, but I look at the fact that no one's perfect, but like when you look down to the plans, and we can even touch on the Ice Cube situation. The biggest question I ask is, where was that plan 4 years ago when we started this term?
Hey, just like I always said, that plan, to be honest with you, this is what I always tell people all the time. When that plan came out of nowhere, I was like, okay, but he put things in place for particularly African American people. Where people was talking about the criminal justice reform, talking about it, doing things and this and that nature, but we check his record. He been doing it since he got into office with that part, the red line.
Well, but I will say that the hard part is
it was 4 things. Yeah, it was 4 things.
Well, no. But I will say like even with the criminal justice piece. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. I hear you.
Okay. Was with the criminal justice piece, I tell people the problem that people are going to see is because there are executive orders and they're not the law of the land, or it's not an official doctrine policy that's gotten the full backing of Congress, the next person, anyone can come in there, Congress majority can come in there, and that policy is wiped out. You know,
Yeah.
but you know, so like my thing is it saved face for some, but
Right.
it did not solve the overall issue, because, you know, I tell people the one issue that nobody wants to touch is the legalization of marijuana. If you really want to talk criminal justice reform at the federal level, that's the area where you really have to talk about, because those are, when you go back to even the 94 crime bill, those are the offenses that have detrimentally affected the Black community.
Yeah, it crippled us. Still to this day, you guys getting out of jail, that's 25 years for what you call nonviolent offenses. And that,
you know,
was,
I'm trying to think of the Jamie Foxx movie.
you talking about what
eluding me.
you talking about where he was the I did the Crip. He was like the guy that
On death row.
Yeah, that the guy that he was actually, he brought up the Crip. He was like the original Crip, whatever. I forgot the guy. I forgot what it was.
You know, but you look at some of that, and that was only less than 10 years ago.
Yeah. But
you know.
Well, yeah, when he was on death row, he died he died in the early 2000s. Yeah.
You know, so you look at some of these things, and it's like, you know, so that's the scary part, is it's never been a doctrine or a law of the land or an official policy, because that's the scary part of executive orders. They run out, or they have an end date sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, because I give the prime example, the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah. Yep.
It's got a set date for reauthorization and whatnot, and you know, they try to pull this out and they pull that out so they can gut it. You know, so I tell people, when we look at things, we've got to look at it as to, they put certain deadlines on things so that they can come back and continuously mess with individuals.
Right.
You know, and that's the scary part. That's the scary part about this criminal justice reform, is there's no backing or true backing from Congress, which I fight with somebody earlier about it, is Biden, you know, they talk about, well, Biden's going to charge 62% on taxes. And I said, that's incorrect. You know, I say, when you really look at the plan, nothing he can pass if he doesn't have congressional backing. A tax plan he has to have congressional backing on.
I think for stuff, for him bringing it into for him to even bring it into it, to put it in his his website, that makes people panic, no matter if they're going to do it or not. This as well as when Trump would do it. That makes whatever he would say.
Yep.
A lot of people
and I think, and this is
what
I will say, it was a smart move in a sense to put it there, because it lets people know he's not holding or hiding anything of what's to come. What I think, you know, and this is the part that, you know, I think sometimes people fail to really talk about, is beyond him not raising tax 1,000 or less, is the fact that there are incentives within for them to bring jobs back to America. So a company like General Ford, or a company like Amazon, to bring more of their work to America, more shipping, more building, things like that to America, they then get a tax incentive or tax break down the road, which incentivizes you to bring the money back to America.
But who,
you know, which is important.
Yeah, like, absolutely. But when you, at the same time, when you're doing that for, you know, for the rich, for the people that's 400,000 or more, what have you, or whatever you know, or a little bit less. Okay, as a politician, what are you getting your money from when it comes to these different countries? How are you getting, like, this with insurance policies? How are, like, what are your tickets coming in? Your take of, okay, you give me this deal, China, give me this money, and then I can see what I could do with the rich that, you know, want to actually bring, like, let's say Nike, that really want to do all their business in China. You know, they literally want to do all their business in China, but they're saying to themselves, okay, we'll play this game. You know, we'll play this game. Let me put my business. I'm gonna give you, let's say, 5 million. Let's say Trump or Biden. So, okay, this tell the rich Nike that they can stay, but they're gonna need to bring some type of shipments back to America. Like they plan, for what I see on my research, they plan a lot of games, and it's understandable. Capitalism. This is another big thing that I vote for. People capitalizing on what they worked hard for. So if you want to do that, great. But
and I think the big, well, the other big part is the dark money that people don't talk about within politics, which drives some of these things. I think as you make laws around revealing dark money, some of that stops.
Right.
And it's a hard topic, but you reveal dark money. It changes a whole ball. You know, but I think
just that
when you start talking jobs, and you see, that's the thing is, as they negotiate the tax plan, you're not going to just get the breaks. Oh, I just brought my shipments back here. You got to look at the whole tangible piece of jobs, all of that. And I think that's really where all of that comes in is it can't just be a one sector like sometimes it has been. Oh, you brought back your shipping, you're going to get this. It's got to be a combination of things so that we can continue to put our people back to work, but also have a stable flow of growth, you know?
Exactly.
Americans buy probably the biggest piece from Amazon, but a lot of it is outsourced.
Right, and I seen a story about Amazon. What's going on over there? I gotta do my research on that later. But I seen a story on Amazon. What's going on? So I don't want to even dwell into that until I'm done. But yeah, man. The last question, and this is a particular question just for you. In the next 5 years, what would you like to accomplish with being one of our community leaders in the next 5 years?
So I will say, one of the things I want to continue to do is serve. Down the line, I would love to serve as a state rep and whatnot in this area. Bringing a different perspective, being a person of color, an African-American male. One of the big things I want to continue to build our males by mentoring. So, continue building partnerships with local clubs, but also coaches and whatnot, to really stump some of the issues we have going on in our community. I see, having been a coach and a referee for so many years at this point, over 7 years, you see the impact as a man you have when you give tough love to these men, these young boys, and you give them things that they don't get at home and at the school. It's rewarding. I tell people I had the opportunity. I had 3 students this year win the Martin Luther King Scholarship.
Right.
And for me, that was a huge blessing because you watch some of your first students, for me, get ready to go to college in the last few years. And within the last 2 years, I've had 4 or 5 of my former students win the scholarship. And the principles you instilled in them to work hard, get involved, be the change in their community, and them to be rewarded for is a blessing. So I want to continue to build and grow on that. I really want to continue to build the community of Norwich to provide more opportunities for our young people. That's me fighting on the city council to make sure that we've got things. I would love to see a community center down the road in the city of Norwich. That's one of the big things that I want to see, and we've got some opportunities with some of the different projects we're doing. For me, career-wise, I would love to be go back. I want to be a teacher. and go back and really continue this thing. You know, I've been in education for so many years at this point, and
Yep.
you know, the impact that I've been able to have has been a blessing. I want to continue to have that impact, but on a different level, to continue to grow and move up the ladder in education, because I see the benefit of them seeing and having a relationship with me and a connection and getting down to their level so that they are successful. You know, so
Absolutely.
for me, you know, it's building this community on from a career point, but also a political point of understanding that I want more opportunities, and part of that's through community growth, part of
Mm-hmm.
that's through mentorship, and part of that's through activism. So I tell people, you know, my biggest phrase that I always say is, the day I stop listening is the day you stop serving. You know, when I stop listening to the needs and wants of my community,
Yep.
is the day you stop serving as a leader, an activist, or a politician. And for me, you know, I soak up things like a sponge. I go, you know, recently I went on a ride along with the police officers, because I tell people I can't make decisions as a leader for something I don't know, something
Right.
I've never experienced. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so part of it is sitting back and listening. And that's the other piece, is I want to continue to teach people. Sometimes it's not what we say or how we act, but whether or not we're listening.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, so for me,
Very
you know,
important.
for me, it's building, you know, wanting to, you know, that final step of becoming a teacher. And then the other part is continue to grow and learn professionally and a politician, to be able to serve this community, hopefully down the road as a state rep.
Absolutely. Hey, that's great. That's definitely something that our community really, really needs, and things, you know, stuff like that. Because I'll say it all the time, especially when it comes to the young men in the area, they really need this. Especially these kids, they really need stable. I think every kid, from a young boy to a young girl, they need. If they don't have it at home, they need adults. They don't need best friends that adults. They need something stable,
Absolutely.
you know. And
Absolutely.
having kids, but to be honest with you, I'm still learning. I'm, still learning how to be the
Mhm.
best father I possibly can. When I stop learning, that's when I think I'm
Absolutely.
failing. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
I really feel like it's extremely important what you do. And, you know, having a dialogue that we've been having, things that, putting things, letting people understanding that it's important, no matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, it's important to be a human being. You know,
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
that's extremely important, but yeah, man, this was a long, I knew it was, every time we have a conversation, it's always long. Every time. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? And I want to
Absolutely.
do, like I said before, I want to do work with you, you know what I'm saying? And because again,
Absolutely.
you've been blessing me with opportunities since I've been back to Connecticut. And I know
Absolutely.
you're a great brother. You have a great family, and you've been raised by
Absolutely. Thank you.
two great people, and your siblings are great people. You know what I mean? Tell them I still miss. I miss them. I want to get that food
Absolutely.
for real, man.
Absolutely.
But again, I thank you for joining my platform. We've been trying to get this interview for a while. We finally got it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And again, let them know what they can find you from your social media.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Facebook. My name's Derell Wilson, Derell Wilson. On Instagram, you can find me at Alderman D. Wilson. And the same thing, you can find me on Twitter at Alderman Wilson. And I'm all over. If you Google my name at the City of Norwich, you can get my City of Norwich email, which is dwilson@thecityofnorwich.org. I pretty much answer anytime, all the time, fast and quick. So don't ever hesitate to reach out and answer any questions.
And I would definitely put send it to me, either text it to me, your information, and I'm gonna put it in the description so people
Absolutely.
can know your location and conversate with you for a little bit. Let them, no matter, because people all over, people, more of us young men in general, but especially black men, we got to start getting this thing together. We got
Absolutely.
to start taking this thing that we call life, you know, get solutions being made,
Yeah.
things being, everything being, we can have fun, but we gotta make sure we have some type of stepping stone, some type of thing for our young generation to come up to be proud of us. We gotta leave a legacy, like our
Absolutely.
grandfathers was doing. We gotta
Absolutely.
leave that legacy. We have
Absolutely.
absolutely. But yeah, man, thanks for joining us. Kasim Lamar Dream Big podcast with my homeboy, my friend, my brother, Mr. Derell Wilson. I'm gonna put his everything, his description right under the description box so you guys can check him out and everything. All right. Peace out. I'm gonna call you.
All righty.
All right. Peace.
Peace.